Hello and welcome to Goddess Storytime, episode number 3. And today we are going to explore the Hawaiian volcano goddess Pele. I am here right now on the Big Island in Hawaii. And last week I was in the crater of the volcano that is said to be the home of Pele. And actually, in her stories, she has connections to each of the different islands in Hawaii, as she's connected to the volcano. So she's set off eruptions on each of these islands, but she's said to have now found a home here on the Big Island. And so, of course, being here, I am excited to share with you about her. And she is a goddess that I actually have not taught a whole lot. And there's a reason. The first time that I shared her at a retreat was, I think, in 2010. I was in Costa Rica and I was leading a week-long retreat where we explored a different goddess every single day. And I think it was on somewhere in the middle, we had a day with Pele. And in all of the time that I have ever led retreats and workshops, this was the only time that I had the experience of a little bit of like jealousy and quarreling happening between a couple of the women. And it's connected to her story. And so there was a part of me that was like, I don't know if I want to teach her again, because the women were so fiery and passionate. And so I haven't really explored her since then. And so in her story, why this sort of passion and jealousy between women is relevant is that in her story, that is a consistent theme. Now, I'm not going to share with you one specific story about her, because what I have discovered as I research into it is that there are almost infinite varieties of the story, and there's not one that's considered to be the true story and above the others. And what each of these stories has in common is that she was a princess goddess who founded really Hawaii and created the islands in many ways, and is responsible for their eruptions. But what's consistent is that she had many sisters, and in each of the stories there is an element of she falls in love with someone and then the sister falls in love, or the man falls in love with the sister, or she falls in love with the husband of a sister, or a sister is mad at another one and chases her. Her sister goddess of the water in one of the stories is chasing her from island to island, and she's a fire goddess and like putting out the fire of her volcanoes. And so there is this kind of passion, sensuality, sexuality, romantic love, and competition, and conflict between the women and these stories. And when I taught that retreat and we did this day connecting to just the energy of the volcano and connecting to this fiery passion, that night we had our night out with all the women at the retreat, and there was only like one young man on the entire retreat property that was like sort of an appropriate age for the women. He was flirting with everyone, and a few of the women like got jealous, and we went out dancing, and they had an argument. And it was just like, oh, okay, it figures that happened on the day we did Pele, because that's built into her story. And what I've discovered on this visit is really interesting, which is that I've been, with a lot of my sisters, like soul sisters, other women that I respect and admire, friends of mine, and there's been different gatherings, and there's been sensuality and men and romance, and there's been a lot of those kinds of dynamics. But what I've discovered is there is a way that we all are interacting as women that are at I guess maybe a more mature place in our life, where there's a lot of respect that we have for one another, and for one another's Shakti, for one another's fire, for one another's beauty, sensuality, and passion. And there's a way that we bring that fire to support one another. And I was having a conversation about this with one of the other women here, and she said that. She said, yeah, like, how can we bring that fierceness that we associate with Pele to protect our sisters, to be in honor of our sisters, as opposed to be against our sisters? And that feels like a very natural evolution. And it feels to me, in some ways, some of the stories that have been passed down around Pele perhaps come from a space of not properly completely honoring that mysterious fire of the feminine, or not completely understanding it. And so seeing it in awe of this incredible volcanic energy that can come out of a woman when she is ignited, when she is turned on, when her passion, when she's present to that. And so Pele is understood to be the goddess who lives inside the volcanoes, who is the volcanoes. It's, you know, certain traditions speak of the divine feminine or speak of the goddesses as actually being forces of nature. Many of the African Yoruban goddesses, it's like they're the goddess of the storms or goddess of a river. And here we have a goddess of a volcano. And it's really, in many ways, a way that people are seeing the creative life force of the feminine and how it expressed through nature, and understanding this relationship between this ignited, passionate, fiery quality that the feminine has and this molten lava that comes pouring up out of volcanoes. And what's exciting for me when I feel into this is how the lava itself in many ways represents the living life force of the Shakti. Now, Shakti is a word that is not associated with Hawaii at all. That is a word that is a Sanskrit word from India that talks about the divine feminine creative life force energy. And that's the only tradition that I'm aware of currently that has a word for this force. And we see this force repeated in all goddess traditions. It is this Kundalini Shakti. You know, in Kundalini, they talk about the Kundalini Shakti. It is this life force energy that can be activated. And in the goddess traditions, we work with Shakti in a very feminine way, which is understanding that is a living energy within us that gets ignited and activated and moves up through our system. And it can be explosive, and it can be destructive. And what I see here that's so exciting and beautiful is that, you know, these islands are just all volcano. And I was down on the beach on the other side that is a black sand beach that is just volcano ash that's become sand. And you see where I can see right where in 2018 these volcanoes, lava went right through this area. And then there's so much life, there's so much vitality in these areas where the lava has gone through, that new life force springs forth. And there's so much mineral rich essence in this molten lava, which is heated earth. It's earth from deep, deep down inside that has gotten so hot that it's melted and it's bursting up forth and spewing out. And then it creates destruction. It will go through homes and trees and whole areas. And then a little while later, it's like this almost, there's this resurrection of the nature in that area that comes back teeming with so much vitality and so much life force after. So we're very present with the volcanoes and living around volcanoes to this destruction and death and rebirth of life and these cycles, and how this connects to the feminine. And when our passion erupts, when our sensuality and our life force erupts out of us, it can be destructive, and it can also be life-giving. And feeling into what else I'm going to say about that. You know, Pele is a great goddess to connect to if you're feeling uninspired. If you're feeling like you don't know what your truth is, you don't know what turns you on, or you're not feeling creatively engaged, it's time to connect to Pele, because she is a goddess of passion, this fiery, eruptive, feminine passion. And it's very connected. So I just want you to think for a moment that this molten lava is way, 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 way down. You know, this is earth from way down in the core that gets down those lower layers. So hot, it gets heated up through kinds of nuclear activity that's taking place within the earth that creates this heat that then shoots that upward. With the same goes for within ourselves. Like if you want to feel that energy and that passion moving up through you, we have to go down first. And that's why with the breathing techniques that I share and the grounding techniques, we always go into the pelvis. We drop a core deep into the core of the earth, and then we feel the energy flow up through that cord, igniting in our sensuality, in our sexuality, in our pelvis, moving up then into our gut and into our solar plexus and our personal power center, and then up into the heart and upwards. And we feel a surge of energy, almost like lava coming up through us and then bursting out. And it can feel, when it's new or you're unfamiliar with it or you don't know how to harness it, it can feel like a wild, chaotic burst of energy that's coming through. And it's something we can also harness and we can move and we can dance with. And this idea of dancing brings in another element that is so interesting, which is that Pele is also considered to be the goddess of the hula dance. And the hula dance is all about this movement in the hips, and it's storytelling, that you know, what the waves, and each movement in traditional hula has a purpose as part of telling a story. But the movement itself has a lot to do with what's happening in the hips and in the pelvis, and this rolling and this rocking and this shaking. Now, the priestess traditions, once upon a time on the planet, all had an element of dance as a part of them. That dance was a way that we expressed a prayer. It was a way that we embodied the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So we open up a channel to allow the divine to move through us. And when we awaken Shakti, what happens is she likes to move. She's not static. The masculine energy is static. The feminine is in movement. She's dynamic. And how we move the Shakti energy, this divine feminine energy through us, is through hips and through swirling and through a kind of dance. And so I love how these elements come together in the story of Pele. And so I want to just keep this video short today to share with you this little tidbit. But what I would give you as a little take home, how to play with her energy, is to do a visualization where you allow yourself first to be still, to allow your energy to drop down in the depths of the earth of your body, down into the crevices. And that's one of the things I loved being up in the volcano, sometimes where there'd be this split and there'd be a crevice down into the earth. And it feels like the very yoni, or the feminine opening of the goddess herself of the earth. So dropping down into those spaces within yourself, and then allowing yourself to drop a cord and feel that connection to the real core of the earth. And then drawing energy up and imagining it's almost like lava, this fiery, passionate, sensual, this energy, lava, when it's liquid, it's flowing, it's water, and it is fire. And so she's a blend of what I would say is the warrior fire goddess energy and the sensual water goddess energy together when we're in that molten lava flow. So feeling that move through you, and imagine yourself like a volcano, pulling up that energy and letting it move out of you as a dance, and maybe even through sound, an explosion of sound, explosion of your passion. And the one caution that I'll give you with that is that when you're exploring with all of this, to really bring this energy of that fierceness and your passion, your sensuality, to be a protectress of that energy in the other women and in your sisters. So that is my sharing of Pele with you today. And I'm looking forward to doing a live event very soon in Austin, Texas, where I'll get to share her with a group of women. And I am looking forward to sharing another goddess with you next month. Have a beautiful month playing with the energy of Pele.